在英国女王过世前2天，她任命了英国新任的首相特拉斯。特拉斯在国葬之后，他马上面临英国的经济困境。这个经济困境呢，使得英国的央行升息50个基点。英国是除了美国之外最支持乌克兰战争的国家，而特拉斯继 Boris Johnson 之后，仍然表示相同的强烈的支持态度，所以他告诉英国国民，你们必须牺牲。虽然没有跟上美国联准会一码，同时一口气升息3码，而是升息了50个基点。美国联准会升息了70个基点，但是英国央行最重要的是，它除了升息2码之外，英国政府宣布大规模的减税计划，这是1972年以来最大规模的减税计划。换句话说，它是一个长达将近50年最大的减税计划，这使得英镑跟英国的国债都跌到了最低点。而一个很重要的是，这个减税计划背后的思考是雷根经济学。所有的人都说这个年代跟雷根时代怎么会一样？你怎么会采取相同的措施？所以都不看好英国的未来。而英国女王或许她已经预知这个国家将来有很多的灾难，她在苏格兰先举办了第一场葬礼，才到了伦敦，最后回到了温莎城堡。她永久的安息了。她人生有很多的故事，也经历了很多年代，也看过了英国的起起伏伏，英国的灾难，大英帝国的灭亡，大英国协勉强的维持。他也看到了苏格兰即将公投独立，而他还没有来得及看到的是英国未来艰困的困难。让我们来看一下美国的公共电视网做了一个英国女王一生很珍贵的纪录片。
She was born Princess Elizabeth Alexandra Mary on April 21st, 1926, far down the line of royal succession and largely out of the spotlight. That changed radically in 1936. Her grandfather, King George V, died, and within months, her uncle, Edward VIII, abdicated. This abrupt turn of events meant that Elizabeth's father became King George VI, and the princess was elevated to heir apparent.
The princess wished them all the best of luck and success in future operations.
As she grew into a young woman, she began taking on public service roles during World War II. And in 1947, she married Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten, a one-time prince of Greece and Denmark. Their ceremony was held at Westminster Abbey with some 2,000 in attendance. 5 years later, Elizabeth's life changed suddenly again when King George died.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family.
Her Majesty, looking radiant in her wonderful gown, leaves the palace.
And so, at the age of 25, she ascended to the British throne. The coronation of Queen Elizabeth took place amid great pomp and circumstance, an event broadcast to the world on television for the very first time.
Will you solemnly promise and swear to govern the peoples of the United Kingdom of Great Britain?
I solemnly promise so to do.
In those early years, the Queen and her husband, now the Duke of Edinburgh, started a growing family. Firstborn was Charles, the Prince of Wales, and heir to the throne. Then Anne, the Princess Royal, followed later by Prince Andrew, Duke of York, and Prince Edward, Earl of Wessex. Along with motherhood, the Queen also aimed to be a modern monarch and kept a busy public schedule for decades.
I would like the whole American people, north, south, east and west, to know how happy we are to be here.
She met with world leaders at home and abroad and traveled extensively. One such visit brought her to the U.S. in 2007, while then-President George W. Bush was in the White House.
It is the moment to take stock of our present friendship, rightly taking pleasure from its strengths, while never taking these for granted. And it is the time to look forward, jointly renewing our commitment to a more prosperous, safer, and freer world.
The Queen also carried out an endless variety of ceremonial duties and was a patron of more than 600 organizations and charities, from child welfare to environmental conservation. Through it all, she tried to keep her family's personal life largely out of the public eye, but the effort was increasingly in vain. And in 1992 came a series of tabloid scandals. Tensions in the marriage between her son, Prince Charles, and Princess Diana broke open with reports that both were having affairs. The Queen's second son, Prince Andrew, announced his separation from Duchess Sarah Ferguson, and Princess Anne divorced her husband, Captain Mark Phillips. Finally, in November that year, a fire destroyed historic sections of the royal residence, Windsor Castle. That same month, the Queen reflected on what she called the horrible year.
1992 is not a year on which I shall look back with undiluted pleasure. In the words of one of my more sympathetic correspondents, it has turned out to be an annus horribilis.
Charles and Diana divorced in 1996 after having two sons, Prince William and Prince Harry. 1 year later, Diana was killed in a car crash in Paris, leaving a nation in shock. Amid an outpouring of public grief, Elizabeth drew criticism for waiting a week before issuing a statement on the tragedy. She also objected to Charles's relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles, but when they married in 2005, she held a reception for them at Windsor Castle. Ultimately, the Queen's popularity recovered, both at home and around the world. She became known as a devoted grandmother and later great-grandmother. And perhaps even better known for her colorful suits and hats, and for her love of dogs, especially the corgis who seemed never far away. Britain celebrated the Queen's Diamond Jubilee in 2012, marking the 60th anniversary of her rule with ceremonies, concerts, and a maritime parade featuring more than 1,000 vessels riding down the Thames River. 3 years later, in September 2015, she officially became Britain's longest-reigning monarch, surpassing her great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria, who ruled for 63 years. And the weddings of her grandsons, William in 2011 and Harry in 2018, once again brought an outpouring of affection for the royal family. Through it all, Elizabeth urged her people to aspire to the good and to practice kindness, as in her pre-recorded Christmas message in 2016.
We sometimes think the world's problems are so big that we can do little to help. On our own, we cannot end wars or wipe out injustice. But the cumulative impact of thousands of small acts of goodness can be bigger than we imagine.
And in April of 2021, Prince Philip, the Queen's husband of nearly 75 years, died just short of his 100th birthday. Elizabeth herself slowed down markedly during 2022, the platinum jubilee of her 70 years on the throne. She missed some of the anniversary events and was said to have difficulty getting around. But in one of her final acts, the Queen did meet with Liz Truss to formally request that Truss become the 15th Prime Minister of her long reign. Queen Elizabeth II was 96 years old.